Good morning, kiddies. I just wanted to discuss something. This morning I got up and I did my usual routine, and then I was just looking through my social media and stuff, and I just had this bombardment of comments by particularly one dude. I won't name him at the moment. Might have to post him up later, but it's just very reminiscent of all the same goal-posted, very heavily brain-trained rhetoric. Okay, so this is what it is, right? We can bring up any number of different topics, 15 different topics that I may or may not have studied in depth. Most of them I have, and I've just got a mile long of studies on them, and they're just verified, established facts. Like they're not something that I created or my opinion. They're just established facts in the world. They've been heavily scrutinised through different peer-reviewed studies and stuff. They're observational facts of what is and what was. And they're all different topics. They're all separate individual topics. However, I'll get prompted to discuss one. So I do. Or I'll initiate a discussion on one. We'll just pick one. We'll just pick, I don't know. We'll pick violence. Pick violence, for example. I'll discuss how violence is violence. Like there's certain levels to it, but violence is violence. There's no two types of it, really. There's just different levels of it and different methods of it. However, when I say it, they'll get to some point in their brain where they're trying to assert and maintain this fixated false belief in themselves and their own habits. It always involves their own habits, and then they'll start looking out to popularity, like what other people are doing. Everyone else is doing it, so I'm correct, which is actually a complete fallacy, because usually the most popular things in the world, the most things people are doing habitually in particular, are the wrong things to do, are the things that you shouldn't be doing. At the moment anyway. That could change in certain areas, and I think it's changing at the moment. Sorry, I'm still going through detox, and it's really irritating me this morning. So we'll talk about violence. So I'm talking about violence with them. We're going along, tit for tat, or whatever, agreeing. I often get they'll be agreeing with me but saying they're disagreeing with me because they're looking at this while I'm looking at this. And I can see exactly what they're talking about. And I'm not disputing what they're talking about, but they're disputing that I'm disputing that this is what they're talking about. So it's just really a really bizarre scenario that I keep going through. And then all of a sudden, as I said, it'll hit the roadblock. It'll hit cognitive dissonance land, right? Where their belief systems in their head that are all sporadic dead ends instead of straight line consistency that carves through everything with truth and evidence. And they'll be like, vegan! Vegan! And it's like, then stop pushing your vegan opinion. Your vegan opinion. Vegan. Everything's vegan. Everything. The entire world is all vegan. Right? That's what they do. And then while they're doing that, I simply point out, actually, no, I'm not talking about veganism at all. Not in the slightest. Right? Violence is not veganism. It's actually the opposite to veganism. So if you want to attach the label or the pigeonholing focus of veganism to something, But I wasn't bringing up veganism at all. They are. And then they're saying I'm obsessively fixated on veganism, when all I'm doing is just living my life according to Australian law in particular, but Earth law as a whole, and my inherent rights, based on a viewpoint of studying and experimenting with these issues and coming to the conclusions based upon established sciences to conduct myself a certain way with action. And that's the difference, with action, because that's what establishes whether you are actually doing something, for starters, and whether you could be determined as being a good person or an evil type person, or, just a lip service shit talker, all those things. And I can tell you right now, 90% of the people I come across are lip service shit talkers. All they do is just run their mouth off non-stop with imaginary stories. And it's usually all to make themselves feel better or try and obtain something or try to target me. Okay? Like with ad hominem, basically. So, and it goes across the board. Like, I was just discussing this morning about eggs and how they're produced and what they are through the ovulation process and coming out the cloaca, and what the cloaca is. Like, it's a rectal vagina. It's both in one. And I said I really can't see myself thinking of something that comes out of a rectal vagina that is basically the menstruation or ovulation process of an ave as food. Like, that doesn't, those things don't correlate at all. So there can be no conclusion or causation. It's just indoctrination. It's straight out indoctrination. I'm sure that during some periods, some animals and even human beings, obviously, have done that in desperation. However, what we're talking about now is a totally different monster. It's indoctrinated habitual, industry. Like, it's just marketed nonsense. It's well established that eggs are horrendous on human health. You can't even classify them as a health food or say anything positive about them if you're going to advertise them and stuff, unless you fully fund it yourself. But then you're up for like lawsuits on providing false information and false advertising and stuff, because it's established they're not in any way a good food. They are just, they're the toxic byproduct of, the cycle within a chicken or a duck or whatever. If you're going to eat that sort of stuff, and I've said this before, it's everyone's choice to. I definitely wouldn't. But if I was, as I've explained many times, I would eat my sister's or my mother's menstrual cycle, the ovulation cycle, because it would be more biologically adapted to me as a species. All right? But obviously I'm not, because it's fucking disgusting. But you're eating the asshole out of a chicken, right? You're eating the and that's not veganism, it's my opinion. Because that's what you react like when I talk about these things, because it hits all the barriers in your brain that you've blocked up. And part of that is the physiological side, as well as leading to the psychological sides of the blockages in your brain from eating the fucking eggs. Okay? Plain and simple. Like, I don't know how else to fucking explain that to you. And it's just medical science, okay? Like, that's basic levels of medical science. And then, do you want to get into hormones? You want to get into hormones? What are hormones? Because hormones are hormones, like mammalian hormones and animal hormones are hormones. You can't say, oh, no, that's different because our hormones are ours and they're potent hormones and they do this and that. But if they are in another animal who has all the same functions, they're different hormones because that's what you're saying. And that's like very special retard type behavior, like very special retard type thinking. It's cognitive dissonance. It's to maintain your fixations on your lifestyle and your habits. That's it. That's all there is to it. There's nothing else to it because there's no science backing you. There's nothing backing you whatsoever except for your buddy you're holding hands with. That's it. And it's their opinion as well. And it's all sales marketing gimmicks. Like it's indoctrinated gimmicks for sales. That's all it is. Hormones are hormones. If you pump your body continually all day, every day with foreign hormones, you have hormonal problems, always and forever, that you will try to stay, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm depressed. Oh, I don't know why I've got this breast cancer. I don't know why I have these hormonal problems. Doc, can you give me some drugs to suppress my thinking? Oh, man, I think your thinking's suppressed enough. Okay, clean it out. Stop putting it in your body. End of story, problem solved. Vegan! It's a vegan issue! It's a vegan issue! No, it's not. It's science, okay? It's objective science, not the opinion of a subjective scientist. It's the data and statistics and the facts of observation of what is and what was. That's it. And most people that know me know I've got the studies a mile long because I've given it to all of them. And then they say I'm behaving inappropriately for doing it. Of course they do, because they don't like to have their false beliefs destroyed. They want to keep it all cozy. Okay? And they want to keep running it as an agenda against veganism when I'm not pushing veganism. I am discussing veganism. I believe veganism is a good stepping stone to where people need to go to, but it's far from there, and most vegans, have exactly the same mindsets and certain blockages in their brains, psychologically and physiologically, that the normal, popular, habitual omnivore has. Okay? So biologically and through biochemistry, all the way through to the crossover into quantum physics or quantum mechanics as well, the human being form at its baseline is a carbon alkaline based frugivore primate. That means fruit. That's it. That's the biologically adapted food for our species. Anything else will cause problems and blockages at the least, and then everything is bioaccumulative. Okay? So, so you need to clean it out. If you have those bioaccumulations, you need to flush them all out through all of the channels, particularly the lymph. So that leads to all of the cells and stuff too. And there's a very systematic, well-known process of doing that, and there's a very systematic, well-known process of causing problems to that. And I can only provide the information. You can only lead a horse to water. But if you look at, we'll talk about the big C at the moment, right? They're talking about the life of it in the body and stuff like that, and how they judge that sort of stuff. It's well known through science that animals, and particularly through the food chain, that toxins and harmful substances are bioaccumulative, particularly through the food chain. So I don't understand how they're coming to the conclusions that they're coming on a baseline of that when they're injecting something that is known to be the main problem-causing constituent on an artificial level, because originally it was artificially made through gain of function anyway, so which is the S1 spike protein. But when they inject it into you, the different sequenced serum of it, the S2 clamps the S1 on, and it repeatedly interferes with the process of transamination, with like the transcriptase, which will bring it back and forward in and out of the nucleus to the DNA. It'll be switching your evolution and switching your second helix, your protein sequence in your DNA like crazy. And it'll be locked in your physical body. It'll be bioaccumulative in your physical body. So it's just festering. And that's the trickery to some of it, because that's where people, through other processes, are talking about the shedding and stuff. And there are degrees of evidence of the shedding through different processes, elimination of bodily fluids and stuff like that. But we're still bioaccumulating even though we're proliferating cells. Those people that have been jabbed are now proliferating cells. They're a lot slower than someone, for example, like me, and other people in my community even more so, but they're proliferating these damaged, reduced cells with this new S1 spike protein replicating through it back and forward to the DNA. So that's evolution. That's artificial or modifying the human evolution. That's what it is. Anyone that says that an mRNA injection, an mRNA solution injected into you is not targeting your DNA is a liar, or they don't know what they're talking about. It's as simple as that. They're the only two options, because it clearly does. It's clearly exactly and the only thing it's for. So, yeah, but then I'm an anti-vaxxer. Like, I'm not a researcher. I'm not just openly discussing and critical thinking on these particular jabs, not vaccines, which they're not. They're not vaccines. They don't meet any of the three criteria, and that's why the patenting office rejected them for 6 years from 2003 when they tried to patent them as vaccines. They didn't meet any of the three criteria, which is prophylactic, to stop you getting it, stop your symptoms or reduce your symptoms, or stop the spread. It didn't do any of those three things, but someone's obviously paid someone somewhere or done a typo or whatever it is, and it got passed. And then Sequoia, who did that patent, then folded out into the holdings of Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. So that's who's rolling it out. So anyway, we sort of branched off a bit, but when I talk about this, like, it either gets focused on as, it's vegan, everything's vegan. Everything in the world is vegan. I can even say, okay, if someone bring up bestiality, like talk about bestiality. Bestiality is bad. It's really bad. Hate it. Sickos. You're a sicko if you like bestiality. And then they go and pay and demand bestiality so that they can get something they don't even need from a shopping centre, which they say is natural, when it's the most convoluted artificial thing and process you can have in your life. And then if you tell them the actual process of it and say, you're actually paying for bestiality, like you're demanding bestiality, they're like, vegan opinion propaganda. Again, like, no, it's not veganism. It is bestiality that you are paying for and demanding. You obviously enjoy and like bestiality. I personally don't. I don't think you should interfere with anyone, regardless of your arbitrary view on their species. Okay? But that's just me. I prefer personal space, to be honest. I wouldn't like it if I was laying in my bedroom and some grey alien walked in and started jerking me off. I can't say that I particularly enjoy that, particularly if they restrained me and jerked me off. And then if they put my sperm into some random woman next door and then they had a baby and then they cut the head off my child that I never consented to, or the consent to be touched or in my personal space, and they've just murdered a baby, and don't, like, I know you're going to get all arbitrary on me. There's that arbitrary line. Now, killing a baby is okay, but killing a baby is bad. Vegan! Right? So that's your mental gymnastics. That's your fixations, your cognitive dissonance, and then you turn it into ad hominem, in denial. And then you get violent if I try to remind you of it. You get abusive and violent. When it's already abusive and violent, it's been abusive and violent on you. You've got Stockholm syndrome, and then you're pushing your nonsense on me. And then the baby was killed. Just say, the hypothetical scenario, if a grey alien come and did that to me, impregnated, that woman was forced to have my child, and then they get it, they cut its head off to kill it, they chop it up, and they sell it to some fucking moron that actually demands and buys it and eats it, right? Then they restrain and put that female in a cycle with pumps on her breasts to extract her milk to sell it to the highest bidder on another planet or in another room. And that's what it is. Vegan!